What's up guys, welcome back to Gabriel Prod. Today we are going to see a simple shader that has a very interesting outcome. It's the Galaxy shader, and it looks pretty cool in a lot of objects. And accompanied with a few particle systems, it can look pretty interesting. And by the way, I made all of these 13 Galaxy FX variants that are only available on my Patreon page. And I'll left a link in the description in case you are interested. You help the channel going forward and you get access to some pretty cool effects, shaders and more that you can use in your game. Alright, so with that being said, let's see how we can do this. So here's the Y-bot. This character is from Mixamo, by the way, and I'm going to create a Galaxy shader for this character with an unlit graph. And I am in the universal render pipeline, by the way. You can start with other graphs if you want. There shouldn't be a lot of difference, and unlit only means that it will not be affected by light, by the way. And once we created the shader, we can double click it, and basically the idea of the shader revolves mainly around one node, the view direction in world space. This basically gives access to vectors that goes from the vertex of the mesh in direction to the camera. So let's first add a cube map property, call it Galaxy. And I'm going to choose one of these galaxies. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how you can create your own Galaxy texture in just a few moments. And we are also going to need a color for the Galaxy color in HDR mode with full alpha and white as default. I'm just going to push this up here. And now we can drag and drop the cube map, and we are going to sample the cube map with a sample node. And now we can connect the view direction node to our sample cube map. And we can already connect these to the color input of the unlit master. And if I go to Unity and create a new material out of this shader, if I assign it to my character, we already get this basic effect that looks pretty cool. It looks already pretty interesting. But first, you still need the Galaxy texture, right? So for this tutorial and for academic purpose, I actually recommend going to Google and simply search a Galaxy texture with at least this resolution. Because we really need to have a big texture for this to work out. Otherwise it may look a bit pixelated. And you can choose any of these textures, but preferably one that only has Galaxy and no landscape or something like that. So anything with an irregular shape, it's going to make that harder to make it seamless, you know. And for this to become a seamless texture, we can go to Photoshop, for example, and now in Filter, we can go down here to Other, and we can choose Offset. And the amount you want to offset depends on the resolution of your texture. Okay, so first I'm going to offset this horizontally. Then to fix this seam that we have right in the middle, the idea is to try a few tools and see which one works well. The first one I'm going to try is the Spot Healing Brush tool. And with a big enough brush, I'm going to pass right on that seam. And it's actually not that bad for a start. Now I'm going to use another tool, the Healing Brush tool. With this tool, I can select a spot as a reference with Alt and left click, and then pass with this brush to extend some of the parts of the galaxy and to fix a few things that are not really right. Now I'm going to again go to Filter, Other and offset this, but this time vertically. And I'm going to try out the Spot Healing Brush tool, see how it comes out. And this time it actually doesn't come out that good. So I'm going to do it all with the Healing Brush tool. I'm going to select a few spots and extend them throughout the scene. And I repeat this process until I end up with a seamless texture. At the end you can once again offset back the amount you have offsetted before. Once you import the texture to Unity, make sure to change the texture shape from 2D to cube map. Change the mapping to auto and also turn on fix up edge seams. And don't forget to press apply. Then you only need to assign the galaxy texture to the shader, to the material more specifically, and you will get something very similar to this, at least. But that's not exactly how we want this galaxy cube map to be mapped, because it isn't quite facing the camera. Back to shader graph, what we can do is create a vector tree and connect it to the normal input of the sample cube map. This allows to point which axis is facing the camera. I'm gonna set 1 in the Y, which in other words it's also the blue channel. Now if I save the shader, we can see that the galaxy is starting to be correctly mapped. It is facing our camera and it seems like we want to get closer and closer and even try to get in. It seems like a portal actually. It could actually work well as a portal too. Okay, now let's add also some stars. Let's start by adding a star's color property, also with white as default. And then a star's cube map texture, which once again you can go to Google and search for a star's texture with a good resolution. And this will allow us to add more depth to the shader. You could even add the third cube map to get even more depth and dynamic going on inside our shader. But this is enough. Okay, so let's add the star's cube map like this. And let's actually offset these stars to create the sensation of depth. We can add a vector tree called stars offset. And this is going to be connected like this. Then we can multiply the galaxy cube map with the galaxy color and the stars cube map with the stars color too. And finally, we only need to add them together and connect this to the color input of the unlit master. Don't forget to save the shader. Then back in Unity, we only need to assign a stars texture to the material, and that's it. Oh, and just don't forget to add a small value like 0.5 to the stars offset, either in X, either in Y. Try out some values. And we can also change the color of the stars if we want, or even the color of the galaxy. It's really up to you. And now we can even improve this by doing something simple, which is adding a Fresnel effect. And we can add a vector 1 to control the Fresnel power as well. Connect it like this, great. And we are also going to need a color to control the Fresnel color, right? Also in HDR mode and with white as default. Then we can multiply them together like this. And finally we just need to add this to the rest of the nodes, and that's it. We can see that we already have a Fresnel. Back in Unity, we can now control the color of the Fresnel and even the intensity as well. I'm just going to change the stars texture with one that is black. Okay, that looks nice. Quite cool. We can also control the Fresnel power, of course. You can play with those values, right? And it looks awesome. It's actually a very simple effect that is so cool and that can be used in so many things. And we can even improve this, for example, by adding a scrolling noise to the Fresnel, which is very simple. We only need a time and then a vector 2 for the Fresnel speed, multiply them together, and then create a simple noise or a Voronoi noise, or even a texture if you want. And we are going to add the Fresnel speed and the time to a UV node like this that we can connect to the simple noise. And the simple noise can be multiplied with the Fresnel like this, and then you can connect this to the add up here. I know it's a bit messy, but we are going to rearrange this. And if you look closely, you can see that the texture is scrolling in the Fresnel, which is nice. It's exactly what we wanted. But we can improve this by simply adding a power node and then create a vector 1 to control this power. And also create another vector one, by the way, to control the scale of the simple noise, just like this. And if we save this now in the inspector, we can control the intensity first, then play a little bit with Fresnel speed, and that's it. It looks awesome. I'm even going to change this for a golden color. It's a pretty cool skin. You can do a lot of cool things with this shader. Now for the particles, they are quite simple. I'm using this shader, by the way, you can copy it. It's a simple particle add. And for the sake of this tutorial, we can add the default particle that comes with Unity, the texture. And then we can create a new particle system for the particles. Rotate it minus 90 degrees in the X, push it a little bit up in the Y. And we can decrease the start size, because they are going to be particles, something between 0.01 and 0.5, which is too much. And also gonna make the start speed random between 0.1 and 0.5, so they move slowly. And start lifetime is gonna be random between 2 and 8. The rate over time can be around 3. The shape can be a cone, yeah, but with a smaller radius of around 0.5 and an angle of around 20. Oh, and the radius thickness should be more or less like 0.5. Then we want to use something cool like velocity over lifetime, where we increase the z value of the orbital x. But we actually want to use between two curves, and we want to end up with something like this range, which is going to make some particles orbit faster than others. Alright, so let's just fade in and fade out the particles with color of lifetime, nothing special. And let's also use the size over lifetime with this curve, so they shrink towards the end. I'm just gonna decrease the back start size actually to around 0.25. Lastly, let's add some noise. And I'm going to use these values right here. For the colors, I'm also going to use these two colors to match the shader. For the ribbons or the Plexus effect, it's really simple actually. We can duplicate these particles and name them ribbons. And a few things change. For example, one is lifetime, which is going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. And then we could go down here to the render and set the render mode to none, because we are only going to use the trails. So let's actually drag and drop the beam to the trail material. And then all we gotta do is turn on trails, and this is what we get out of the box. But for the Plexus effect, we need to change the trail mode from particles to ribbons. And here we go, we have this cool effect going on. Now let's just change the wide over trail to this curve right here. Okay, so that's it for the Plexus effect. And it adds a really nice touch, actually. And if you want, you can even add some trails. You can duplicate these ribbons again and rename it to trails, but this time we are going to change the mode of the trails from ribbons to particles. Let's just update the start speed to something more consistent between 0.4 and 0.6, and then turn off noise. I think it looks better without it. And then we can change the orbital x to a constant value in z, like 2. And maybe also decrease the rate. You get the idea. You can use both the Plexus and the trails, or only one at the same time. It's just to complement the whole idea of a galaxy shader in a character, for example. Maybe you can even replace the beam that we are using in the particles with a star texture. It will look better. Something like this. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. This entire project is available on my Patreon page. You will also have access to many other shaders and particles effects that you can use for your projects, and you help the channel going forward. Links in description. And I want to thank every single patron that supports me. It helps a lot to keep these videos coming. And a big thank you goes to the super mega patrons, the top tier patrons, which are Alejandro, Chris Coy, FortHeroGames.com, Goblin Plague, James Finlay, Juan Mendiola, Ken Lee, Osgur Simsek, Solofo Razafimaelio, Stephen Melton, TK, Vera Mountain, and Artem Jim. Thank you all for your support, it really means a lot. So that's it guys, thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.